Hi, this is Ariane Cerna. This is my week 8 project for sociology. So we're going to start with question 1. So social change has affected several parts of our society today. Over decades, we've seen social change affect the environment, population, innovation, diffusion, and mass media. There are several examples to all of these. So for the environment, social change has really affected it because in decades before us, or even in the last decade, they thought of global warming to be as a joke and not a real concern. In today's world, it's a very real concern. We have several awareness groups out there trying to promote what global warming is actually doing and what it will actually do in the future. So we're just very aware of it. We reuse, recycle. We're trying to reverse the effects of this at this point. It's a huge social thing that societies are doing. They're coming together, and we're putting in more recyclable things. There's stores like Starbucks who are getting rid of straws, and we have beach cleanups everywhere. So that's definitely an environment effect. As for population, we have made it more aware that mental illness is a serious problem of our society today and of our nation. Back in the day, a lot of people got written off for being crazy because they have, several mental illnesses. And nowadays we're teaching it in our schools how even bullying can lead to, suicide, and how anxiety, depression, and PTSD are all real things that we need to be more aware of, and we need to get our government together to be able to help the people that are really suffering with these side effects and diseases and just all these mental illnesses that are going around. The third would be innovation. So social change has definitely changed innovation in today's world. So if you look at it, there are several adult students in the world today, and it's because technology has just progressed our job opportunities, and we now need college degrees to do certain jobs, and it's just propelling the future, the people forward to gain a better future. And then third would be diffusion. So we have today in our society, we have several clothing that represents, nations of China and Japan and India and Australia. We're integrating their cultures in with our fashion, our food, our cars. We're trying to take spices from other people, from other countries, ideas, all these things, and we're creating new things with them, and we're mixing cultures, and it's just allowing us to grow and use other products from other nations, build their economy while helping ours. So it's just a great way that our society has come together to welcoming in other cultures and being able to represent them in the American life. And then also there is mass media. So this one's a great one in today, especially just because of the politics that are going around. You could take the Huffington Post, which is a very liberal broadcast, and you can compare it to Fox News, which is very conservative. They can each tell the same story, but each with biased stances to support their belief in what story they're telling. Today, we have kids who are taking a side, whether it's the right or the left, at very young ages. We have more liberals speaking out about things. We have conservatives fighting back about things. We're more conscious of morals and ethics, and making sure that everyone gets a trophy. It's a joke in today's society, but it's true. Children now grow up in schools, elementary schools, where they play on a sport. And even if they're the losing team, they still get a trophy because we don't want to tell our children that they lost. We more or less just want to make sure that everybody is happy. And that's a very liberal way of thinking. Um, so I think mass media is definitely a huge part of social change in today, because we have such a huge group of the right and left, the liberals and the conservatives. Um, so social change relies on the nation coming together on the same topic and uniting people. So I think social change is a great thing. Whether it's for the good or the bad, in your opinion or your opinion, we all try to move forward and progress. Um, and it's great to come together as a nation, or even as a group or a society, just on common grounds, and to be able to relate to people. So question 2, the information revolution was the start of passing on information through different technological advances, which has changed society dramatically. There is even a huge difference from my mother's era to my time today. You know, we have communication like emails, texting, Skype. I can all do it from my phone. So it's just a huge change, and it continues to change. Major companies are able to communicate overseas in just seconds. This allows production growth as well as global economy growth. We have been able to put humans in space, and we're able to communicate them in the stars, on the planets, orbiting moons, just with communication technology that has grown massively over a short period of time. With how technology is growing so rapidly, I can guess that the information revolution will continue to grow rapidly along with it. The technological advances we have for communication is starting to take over common jobs of the world, like managers. My manager personally oversees 2 different primary care offices, and a lot of times she will communicate with us via GChat, Zoom, our cell phones. She'll email us, but she really doesn't need to be in the office. She doesn't need to be going between 2 offices and getting paid for drive time because of that, because of the fact that she can communicate with us just through technological advances. So I think that it will deplete some jobs while also gaining some others, but I think that it can only propel us forward in a productive way for our economy, regardless of whether we lose jobs or not. Question 3, in order for a nation to become modernized, they must move from their traditional standpoint to becoming more industrial. So many underdeveloped nations, they lack literacy, they lack education, they lack communication, and you know, it's the reason why they can't move forward. It's the reason why they can't become bigger nations. So modernization definitely can bring in these types of things in order to teach and be able to communicate with people better. So by doing this, it allows countries to create infrastructure, making it easier and faster to do common duties like farming. Infrastructure allows the building of roads and railroad systems, which brings in more people and more production. It provides cities with power and technology, as well as productions, goods, and services. All of this combined can allow a very small village or a very small town to become a large city and a more productive city. By giving them technology to communicate with the rest of the world, it opens up a global market for them, providing more trade and production. Working with other nations also provides treaty and protection, so in a time of need, these countries now have a bigger nation backing them up. And it also brings in welfare. There are several underdeveloped nations that are living very poorly and they need help. So for the people who don't get the jobs, they still have protection, you know, whether it's income or medical. So in all, modernization definitely helps stabilize a nation, and allowing more movement for them to grow and become productive societies. And then the last question number 4. There are 4 main types of social movements. Alternative is to reach out to a selective part of the population. Redemptive is radical in scope but focuses on the individual. Reformative advocates for minor changes instead of radical changes. And revolutionary, which is revolutionary forms to gain some control of the state. So these groups' purpose is to change political or social issues, whether it is for the good or for the bad. So I chose to look at revolutionary. And for my example, I chose the hippie movement of the 1960s to the 70s, which all started on college campuses. So this was obviously a young group of young adults. And they went against the American way of life, using, using more drugs freely, like holistic medications, protesting the Vietnam War. They believed in peace and love, and creating their own lifestyle. This was derived from feeling alienated from the middle class of their day. They felt America was running the country on money and hatred, and therefore opened up an opportunity to go against them. Many of them protested and rallied when veterans came home, just not supporting our troops at all. Overall, they were pretty much against rules and mainstream of life and rebelled against it, pretty much doing the exact opposite of what the middle class was doing and expected of them. The hippies derived from a group of people wanting more freedom. America the views in that era were much different than today. So, doing these things like moving in with people before marriage were not okay. Moving in with several people was not okay. The freedom of love was not okay. Drugs, sex, alcohol, it just became ginormous in this type of era, or in this generation. And the movement really progressed, and it led a path into the way that we think today and the way that we dress and act. We still have fashion from them, tons of fashion, tons of music. They were the era of rock and roll, which we still have today, and which we have even changed, and it's definitely paved a way for our generation to grow from theirs. We don't have, the hippie movement it's gone, but it definitely paved the way to our day and age today. We're more lackadaisical on things like moving in with people. If you take a poll, most people aren't so quiet about sex. Even sexual orientation, being bisexual, being gay, it was definitely immoral back then, and nowadays more people are accepting of it. We're changing laws for people to get married. Like, this was a huge movement to help these people today gain the freedom that they needed to become married. And also the drug thing, you could take into consideration of how marijuana helps certain illnesses and how it's legal in several states now. So the hippie movement definitely propelled our nation forward. There were some drawbacks from it, definitely, but I believe that they definitely just wanted to change and wanted to help America, and they saw it in a different way than most people did. So overall, the movement helped America, and it was a pretty good movement. So that is the end of my my speech. I do have 3 references, and that's it. Have a good day.